Welcome to Complete Aviation Solutions, Deep Dive number 66.
Great to be diving in again.
Today, we're taking a closer look at some recent reports,
Mm-hmm.
really digging into shifts in the airline world, partnerships, fleets, some regulatory stuff too.
Yeah, lots happening. Our goal, as always, is to sort of piece together what these developments actually mean for the bigger aviation picture.
Okay, so let's kick things off with American Airlines and JetBlue. Seems those recent partnership discussions they were having, they've ended?
They have, and this comes, after their previous big tie-up, the Northeast Alliance.
The NEA, right, approved back in early 2021.
That's the one. But then, struck down by regulators in 2023, that was a major deal for routes up in the Northeast, Boston, New York.
It really was. And I guess American Trying Again shows they still saw value there, didn't they? In working with JetBlue in that, well, pretty tough market.
Definitely. The end of the NEA clearly left a strategic hole they were hoping to maybe patch up somehow.
Right. But with these new talks now off the table, well, American's actually suing JetBlue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, trying to get back money they say they're owed from when the original NEA was terminated. Apparently, they put that lawsuit on hold while these latest talks were happening.
Okay. That makes sense. It really shows, how messy unwinding these big collaborations can be. And JetBlue has sort of acknowledged the lawsuit, haven't they? Said it's part of reconciling the finances from the NEA ending, so it sounds like they're both just moving on separately.
And speaking of JetBlue, moving on, they're saying they're actively hunting for a new airline partner. They expect an announcement, what was it, second quarter of 2025?
Yeah, Q2 next year. So they're not giving up on the partnership idea entirely.
Seems odd, even though, well, financially things aren't amazing for them. First quarter 2025 operating revenue was about USD 2.1 billion, down a bit year on year, and a net loss of USD 208 million.
Right. So finding the right partner will be crucial. Someone who complements their network, probably, without overlapping too much, maybe helps them internationally.
Could be. It'll be interesting to see who they team up with. And we got a peek at their fleet, too. It's quite a mix. A220s, A320s, A321s, including those newer NX versions, and still some E190s.
That mix gives them flexibility for sure. The different A321s like the LR let them fly longer routes, maybe thinner ones that don't need a wide body.
Good point. And on a slightly brighter note for JetBlue, those Pratt & Whitney engine issues.
The GTF problems, yeah.
Yeah.
Affecting quite a few airlines.
Well, JetBlue says the situation is actually improving. They had fewer planes grounded in Q1 2025 than they expected. That must be a relief.
Oh, absolutely. Having aircraft stuck on the ground because of engines is a major headache. Disrupts schedules, costs money.
Exactly. So fewer groundings is definitely good news for their operations and bottom line.
No doubt about it.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Finnair and Qantas.
Right, the wet lease agreement.
Yeah, where Finnair provides the plane, the crew, everything. Well, that's been scaled back.
And it's because of industrial action, Finnair's pilots union.
So what was the deal? Finnair was flying for Qantas. Sydney routes.
That's it. Sydney to Singapore and Sydney to Bangkok, kind of extensions of Finnair's own Helsinki flights. But there was a dispute over pilot standby duties for these ACMI, these wet lease operations.
And that dispute has directly hit their ability to actually run the flights reliably for Qantas.
Precisely. So now instead of 2 Finnair A330s flying for Qantas, there's only 1.
Wow. And that's led to Finnair having to furlough pilots.
Yeah, 36 pilots starting towards the end of September this year. And it could last until at least May 2026. It shows how these internal labor issues can really ripple outwards, impacting international deals.
Big time. And the financial costs must be significant too.
Huge. Finnair reported losing about EUR 31 million in revenue, and it hit their operating result by EUR 22 million in a recent quarter. Plus another EUR 10 million revenue impact expected just for April 2025.
Ouch. Those are serious numbers. Tangible costs of operational disruption, right?
Absolutely.
So we know the Sydney-Singapore route flown by Finnair has stopped.
Correct. Qantas is using their own A330s for that leg now. Finnair's still doing the Sydney-Bangkok run, though.
Shows how quickly airlines need to pivot when things go wrong, doesn't it?
It really does. Qantas being able to bring in their own metal demonstrates that operational agility.
Okay. Let's move over to the Middle East. Expansion news from Etihad Airways.
Yes, they're bringing in the A321-200 NXLR, the long-range narrow body.
Starting August 1st, 2025. Daily flight to Phuket. Is that right?
That's the plan. They've got 20 of these planes on order, expect to get about half by the end of 2025.
And their CEO called it a transformational moment. part of their big Journey 2030 strategy.
Exactly. Doubling the fleet, tripling passenger numbers, very ambitious goals. And this A321LR is clearly a key part of that plan.
Interesting. They're fitting them with 160 seats, 3 classes, and using them on, quote, thinner, short, and medium-haul routes.
Makes perfect sense. The LR's extra range lets them fly further than a standard A321, opening up routes that maybe don't have enough demand for a big wide body, but are too far for a regular narrow body.
So connecting new city pairs directly.
Precisely. Avoids connections, potentially opens up underserved markets. It's a smart way to grow the network efficiently.
And they've already listed more routes coming online later in 2025. Dusseldorf, Copenhagen, Phnom Penh, Milan, quite a few.
Yeah, a clear push to broaden their reach using this specific aircraft type. It's about matching the plane to the market demand.
And this is on top of other big orders they have, right? A350s, 777s, 787s.
Oh, yeah. They're expecting an average of 20 aircraft deliveries per year for the next 5 years. That's major growth.
Serious investment. Shows a lot of confidence in future demand across their whole network.
Definitely looking towards significant expansion.
All right, lastly, let's touch on a regulatory point. Over in the UK.
The CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority.
Yes. They finished consulting on the Atlantic Joint Business Agreement. That's the big one involving American, BA, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Finnair.
The transatlantic joint venture, yeah. Lets them coordinate schedules, pricing, revenue sharing across the pond.
But the CMA's job is to make sure these deals don't end up hurting competition, right? Which means potentially higher fares or fewer choices for you, the passenger.
Exactly. They were specifically looking at routes between London Heathrow and 4 big U.S. cities: Boston, Chicago, Dallas, and Miami.
Key routes. Very busy, very lucrative.
Absolutely. So any potential restriction on competition there gets close scrutiny.
So, to smooth things over, American and BA offered some commitments.
They did. They offered to give up some landing and takeoff slots at Heathrow valuable commodities, as you know, to competitors on the Boston, Chicago, and Miami routes.
Making it easier for rivals to fly those routes, too.
That's the idea. And for the Dallas route, they promised to carry a certain number of passengers flying just between London and Dallas, point to point, and also to cooperate better with competitors, like helping with connecting passengers.
Trying to show the CMA that the joint venture won't freeze out competition.
Essentially, yes. Trying to prove the agreement still allows for a competitive market, or at least doesn't significantly reduce it.
And the CMA seems inclined to accept these promises.
Looks that way. They said they intend to accept them unless strong arguments come up against it. The consultation period ended late April.
So we should probably expect a final decision fairly soon. It could really shape how these airlines cooperate going forward.
It could. It sets a benchmark, really, for how regulators view these powerful alliances and what airlines need to do to get them approved or keep them running.
So wrapping up today's deep dive, it really paints a picture of an industry constantly juggling things, doesn't it? Partnerships forming and breaking, operational hiccups like pilot disputes, big strategic bets on new planes, and always the regulators watching.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected. The American JetBlue saga shows the risks in alliances. Finnair shows how internal issues affect global deals. Etihad highlights growth ambitions tied to new tech. And the UK case reminds us competition rules are always a factor.
It's a dynamic environment for sure. All these events give us a real snapshot of the pressures and strategies shaping the airlines right now.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What do these shifts tell us about where airline partnerships and competition are headed in the next few years?
That's definitely a question worth keeping an eye on.